Today's video, it's all about the shielded impeller. Here is the bottom half of the pattern, and this is the top half of the pattern, the actual shield. With these two parts we'll be able to make a shielded impeller casting. Because this casting needs to be made in sections, cores, there is a pencil line. It's 20mm above the bottom. That goes all the way around, and I need to pack the sand up to that. Then that goes on top for the second half. To start the core off, you need to put the top part on. Then we start feeding sand in. And now we have to start feeding the sand. In each of the vein pockets. And now we can finish the core off. Just keep adding sand until we come to our parting line. Now, because I won't be using green sand for the rest of the mould, I'll be using coarse sand. I need to put some registers in while the sand's nice and soft still. There's one register. There is another. And the last one here. Now, to make absolutely sure that the next layer won't stick to the last layer, got to dust a fair bit of talc on there. Now the resin has gone nice and hard, so I'll just unscrew it. Definitely a nice neat fit on there. Now we'll screw this back up again. Now flip it over. Before I put the top box on, you need to cut some aligning dowels. So the easiest way to do it is to get an old washer. You just dig in a bit like so. Another one across here. Before I put the top box on, I need to put this part of the pattern on. That's where the seal sits, but also it creates a riser, so when that shrinks it provides some metal. And then we've got to put our sprue just here. Now you're probably wondering why the sprue is up that way. Well, I was in two minds. I was going to pour it from there upwards, but then I changed my mind. Best way to pour it that way because it feeds better just there. So what we do now, we dust a heap of talc on it again, and then what we do, put these two boards just here, and then we sit this on top so it doesn't fall through. Now we're ready to add more sand. That's what it looks like after I've packed the sand in. I've roughly levelled it, and then afterwards I'll give it a bit of rub on the concrete floor, and then you'll see how flat it gets, and also we'll clean up that riser hole. Now we come to the most interesting part. We're going to have to disassemble the core moulds and then remove the patterns. With these last two cores it gets progressively more difficult, so I've got to use a bit more force and violence. I use a slight wedge You can give it a tap and see what happens. Now I was having trouble trying to disassemble this half, so what I've done off camera is I've had to wiggle it a little bit, and that's the procedure to get it out. I'll show you. You just wiggle a little bit like that. And out it comes. This is what the molds look like so far, but like I said, it gets progressively more difficult. This one here, I need to remove that, and I have to tap it fairly hard. With the next step, we have to get this pattern out, but the only way I can get that out is to hit it on top, and what I've got to do, I've got to lift it up at the same time, and I've put some cardboard underneath so when it does drop it's got a soft landing. Well, the previous method was a waste of time, so now I'm using a piece of wood and tap it and see what happens. After a lot of blows off camera, finally got it off. This is the most difficult part. It's very thin and spindly, and what I'd like to do, I would put this piece of shim under here to support it, and then give it a tap and hope like hell it comes out without breaking. Right, we've got it a little bit out here. Careful tapping with this punch to go all the way around, and have a look at the other side. You can see it's starting to go into the grooves there. So now what I'll do, we will have a go and put a magnet on here and see if we can lift it out. Got to wiggle it a bit. I can feel it coming. So is Christmas. And there you have it. There is a shielded impeller core. I'll give you a look at the other side of the shielded impeller core. In a couple of places here I didn't quite ram it properly. It'll probably leave a bit of a rough surface. So this is a real cheap version of a core paint. You just put talc on here or graphite and then just rub it in. As I don't do a lot of these core moulds, it's best to use a pre-formed runner system, but what I've got to do, you've got to carve it out by hand. And this stuff is extremely hard. I'm just about ready to reassemble the mould, ready for pouring. But before I do, you can see those points there. That's what I was talking about, those little bumps or alignment dowels. They actually make sure that the mould goes back to exactly the right place. And what I've got to do, just got to fix up this little stuff up here. This is where I've changed my mind. I've got to seal up the hole. And here is the last part of the mould, the top. It's ready to be poured. And now we'll have a look at this disaster. Yes, it's a disaster. Here is the reason why the first one failed. The gate in there was just too small, and I hesitated in pouring and it just did not fill up. This is the second time around for the shielded impeller mould, but I've changed a couple of things. I'm going to use the green sand, which I have. There's the top half of the mould and the bottom half of the mould, and when you mix this sand up, the core sand, I'm doing it by hand, so it does take a fair bit of effort. So to speed things up, I decided to just make that part there out of core sand. And also what I've changed as well is to make your running system with a mould so much quicker and easier, and the shape comes out, and it also has a thicker ingate, so it'll fill up the mould a lot quicker than last time. All we have to do now is just assemble the mould. And here is the end result, a shielded impeller casting.